Three things I did well, three things I did bad, and how can I do them better? Understand that really everything good in life stands on the other side of an obstacle.
Life's not happening to you, it's happening for you.
Yeah, yeah, totally. The real reward of Stoicism is it does free you up for joy and presence.
Today's episode is powered by Huel. Huel is a quick, affordable, nutritiously complete food with everything that your body needs. I like Huel. It's good for you and it's tasty. I think I'm noticing a big problem in the world that a lot of people are feeling this lack of control. It's something I had when I was younger, where you feel out of control, like you're just being thrown around by life and your anxieties and your fears and your stress. And it's kind of, you just feel like you don't have any grasp over life. And I personally believe, for me, Stoicism was the answer. And I think Stoicism can help so many people. I'm sure you're probably an advocate for that. So I'd like to go over some Stoic exercises and ways you can practice Stoicism to get control over your life. And I know you ran a course called Practical Stoicism, so I think you're the perfect person to talk about this.
Yeah, I did. I ran a couple cohorts, during the pandemic of a course called Practical Stoicism. And yeah, I agree. I mean, I think to me, that's why I love Stoicism so much. It is very practical and it does kind of help you define what you can and can't control. And you can't control the externals. You control your response to them. And there's some really simple Stoic exercises that can help you with that. So yeah, I'm good with all of that.
Great. So, you started the course during the pandemic. Was there a particular reason for this?
I think, William, during that, so I've been practicing Stoicism for about 10 years, but I think, just because I had this extra time in my life that I was home in the morning and I usually would have been commuting to work, and I started writing and started doing more kind of posting stuff online about Stoicism. And there was just a lot of cohort courses and stuff going on. So I said, I'm going to do one about Stoicism. And, I really had a blast doing it. So I think I just did it because I think with everyone being isolated, there was this online kind of phenomenon of people come together in cohorts, cohort driven courses and stuff like that. So I kind of went ahead and did a couple whirls of it with Stoicism, and then kind of in real life picked back up. And, I think I saw a little bit of waning interest in these. Maybe people were getting a little online fatigue, Zoom fatigue, Teams fatigue, and getting back in real life. But I'm thinking about maybe trying to give it another shot in the future or sometime.
Oh, that's exciting. So did you notice, when you found Stoicism, did you notice a big improvement in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as, personally, I mean, just, I am, I'm a pretty voracious reader. I've read a lot of different things. I've always been, kind of, into personal development and stuff like that. But I would think of really anything I've discovered along those lines. I mean, Stoicism has had the most tangible benefit for me. I mean, I've read, How to Win Friends, Influence People. I've kind of read all kinds of different kind of personal development books. And they kind of come and go a little bit in your conscience after you read them. But Stoicism just kind of planted itself in there. It's just really resonated with me when I say that kind of had a Stoicism shaped hole. And when I read Stoicism, it just like it fit. And I would think of anything I've done along the lines of kind of, self-improvement and whatnot. I mean, I'm like 10 years into Stoicism, and every day I read I'm reading it every day. I'm reading about Stoicism. I read Meditations yearly. It's just very much a part of my life. And, I, do feel, and I think Stoicism has brought some of that to light, that, I want to share that with the world and help other people see the benefits of Stoicism, kind of, there's just, you see a lot of this phenomenon going out there, people angry about things, of people responding emotionally to things. And ultimately, they're like things that are outside of their control, and they're things that they could choose to respond to in a more healthy way and probably have a happier, more tranquil life. So I do feel a little bit of my life's mission to try and, just spread the good word on Stoicism, and either do that through teaching courses or through posting stuff online, writing articles about Stoicism, just trying to kind of spread the good word as much as I can, and hopefully have other people step their way into it and get some benefit from it.
It's funny. I feel like we've had the exact same journey. I think I've been practicing Stoicism for around a decade now. And I found it through, I was reading self-help books, and I got recommended the Meditations. I know you got recommended one of Ryan Holiday's books, but I was reading Meditations as a self-help book, and I found it very helpful. And I was like, is there more to this? And I found the Stoics. And it's like you say, I never got How to Win Friends and Influence People and used it every day for years. I never it never became my identity, but like learning from the Stoics, it almost becomes a way of life. Well, it is a way of life. And every day it's this progress, which I think is so fascinating. So if you was to imagine right now, the person that's listening is like my younger self. I had no control. I felt anxious all the time. If you was to lay a roadmap, maybe from beginning to end for them using Stoic practices and Stoic exercises, where would you begin?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I would first start with saying, I don't know that there's ever an end, right? For me, I've been practicing Stoicism for 10 years, and I still need to practice Stoicism. I've just this week had a couple things happen where I got too anxious about something. I got too upset. I'm still the battle against myself, and battle may be a harsh word, but that's never going to end. I will always be, I'm the kind of person who will always be applying Stoicism to help smooth the edges of maybe my natural human responses to things that I can sometimes let go farther than they should. So I'm still very much a practitioner and student of Stoicism, probably will be, from the foreseeable future and probably the rest of my life. But the beginning of the journey is probably a little bit easier for me to kind of lay out what I think is a good way to get started. So it sounds like you started, your entry point was Meditations. My entry point, and one thing I always recommend is I personally, for me, and it just worked for me, is reading about Stoicism before you actually read the works of the Stoics. Because, I think you pick up a book like Meditations and you start reading, you go into book one and he starts thanking his father and his grandfather. And it's a weird entry point. And then even when you get to book two, he kind of has this passage about, remind yourself when you wake in the morning, you'll meet with people that are meddling and ungrateful and jealous. And so you dive in, you're like, whoa, what's this guy talking about? But if you read about Stoicism, it kind of sets the stage for you a little bit. And you understand, like that passage I just talked about, this is like a negative visualization exercise. He's just reminding and preparing himself for the things he will face in that day. So for me, reading about Stoicism, so a really great about Stoicism book is A Guide to the Good Life by William Irvine. My personal journey started with The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. I think Ryan Holiday has launched 1 million Stoic ships. He's obviously is the kind of preeminent modern day Stoic, and I'm grateful to him for that. It was through his book that I learned it. It's not really a book about Stoicism per se. It's about this Stoic mindset of a very valuable and powerful one about seeing your obstacles as opportunities, and kind of stepping up to those obstacles. So it's a great concept. It's not really a great book to learn about Stoicism. He'll touch on Stoic stuff and some quotes, and Marcus Aurelius comes up. But A Guide to the Good Life by William Irvine is just, to me, it's the best. You learn who are the Stoics, what is the philosophy of Stoicism about, some Stoic practices that you can start, kind of implementing. So it's a great entry point. And I think after you go do that, then you can go ahead and jump into the works of the Stoics, because again, the stage will be set. Okay, I get these different concepts. And then when I read about them, I'll be like, oh, yeah, here's where Marcus is talking about the practice of negative visualization, and instead of reading a passage I'd mentioned earlier and be like, wow, Marcus sounds like a jerk. He's just talking about like all these people and reminding yourself that you're going to meet with these, bad, these kind of surly, jealous, dishonest people. It's a weird way to kind of step into it. But again, once you know a little bit about it, so you're like, I get it. I see what Marcus is doing. He's just preparing himself for what he's going to face that day, which is a very, very good Stoic practice. So for me, kind of once you read A Guide to the Good Life, look, I love Meditations. It's always close by. You kind of see I got my tabs. It's definitely my favorite book of all time. So I think after you read A Guide to the Good Life, sometimes I recommend like doing the Enchiridion by Epictetus next, because it's a very simple, short read. It is like super thin book. it almost, Enchiridion stands for, kind of handbook. It is kind of like Stoicism 101. You can read it. It's a quick, short read. There's modern translations of it that kind of make it easily, kind of easy to read. And you kind of learn about your dichotomy of control, what you can and can't control. You kind of learn about some of the basic Stoic practices. So that's a good entry point. So I would say A Guide to the Good Life, Enchiridion, and then dive into Meditations. I'm a big, big fan of the Gregory Hayes translation, which is this one with the bird on it. I just think I've read a few different translations. I'm grateful that Gregory Hayes translation was the first one that I read, because it's a more modern translation and just really easy to read. So that would be a quick kind of entryway for me into Stoicism. And then after that, we got Seneca. I mean, you can kind of choose your own adventure after that. Definitely recommend reading Seneca. I think that Marcus and Epictetus are easier because they write more in passages, right? You can just pick it up. It's almost like you could literally pick up Meditations, flip to any page, and find a passage and read it and get a little something from it. Seneca tends to write more in prose. He was writing essays and letters, and it's a little more dense the way you read it. But I mean, Seneca's stuff is awesome too. But I kind of recommend do maybe the Epictetus, Marcus, and Seneca, then Seneca. At least that's what I did. I read Seneca last, but love Seneca. I love his writings too. But they're kind of a little bit longer and denser, kind of letters and essays. But he's a beautiful author. And then you got, your Donald Robertson, you got all kinds of other modern Stoics. There's really no end to a lot of great Stoic resources out there.
Yeah, I think you've actually gave quite a good route to understand the Stoics, because when I read Meditations at the start, it didn't make too much sense. And then I read the Little Book of Stoicism. Then I read William P. Irvine's book, and then I got onto Donald Robertson. And I think Donald Robertson's a bit more advanced, but Donald Robertson, just like the Ancient Stoics, I feel like you can read his work every single day. But like saying with Meditations, I've got I haven't got it on me now. It's the first time I haven't had it on me. But I'll be in the gym and I'll just open it up to one page and just go over one paragraph so many times. If I'm in the kitchen, I'll keep on that same little entry and I'll just keep soaking it in, because every time you read it, it's a different book. Like I say, no man steps in the same river twice, because he's not the same man and he's no longer in the same river. And it's the same with reading the Stoics. It's there at a different stage in your life. But so we've got sort of entry into understand the Stoics, how to pick up the Stoics. Where would you go there as a practical? What's the first practical step to becoming a practicing Stoic?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing I think I would say, first of all, I think the reason why I love the philosophy of Stoicism so much is its practical nature. Marcus has a quote in Meditations where he talks that, I won't be able to say it exactly, but he says something along the lines of the student as boxer, not fencer. The boxer always carries his weapons with him. The fencer has to go pick up his weapon. So to me, that's Stoic. Marcus writes in such great metaphors and imagery. That's one thing I love about his writing too. He really was a beautiful writer. Just like the imagery, he just so much imagery in his stuff. You can just visualize what he's writing about. But it really is a very good way to look at Stoicism. Like a boxer is just like, if a boxer is getting in some bad situation happens, he all right, I have my weapons with me. The fencer is like, oh, where did I put my sword? I gotta go find I got my sword. Okay, now I'm prepared. And it's just a great analogy to me also of the practical nature of Stoicism. It's there. You can carry it with you very easily. It's a very portable philosophy, because really its lessons are simple but powerful. So, kind of like, what's the entryway into practicing Stoicism? To me, it's the dichotomy of control. And it's really very simple. So the dichotomy of control is kind of how Epictetus, the Enchiridion starts with, of things, some are within our control and some aren't. And he goes on after that. But that short little sentence that starts off the Enchiridion it's the dichotomy of control, what I can control and what I can't control. And to me, it's simple. it's basic, and there might be a throwaway thing, like about, somebody who's new to Stoicism, like that. All right, I know that. Like but how many times in our life do we get upset over things that we can't control? I think if we're being honest with ourselves, it happens a lot. It still happens to me today, after I've been practicing Stoicism for a while. But it is a very practical and easy way to start practicing Stoicism, to just apply that filter as the events of your life kind of come at you and unfold. What can I, and you start feeling an emotional response to this. Is this something I can or can't control? And the more you practice it, the more you're going to learn that there are a lot of things I can't control, or I have very little control over. People get upset about politics. Or I wake up and the weather's rainy today and I had something planned outside. Look, man, there's a lot of time in my life I would literally be upset, like, oh my, I can't believe it's raining today. Like, I'm gonna have to change my plan. And I'm upset because it's raining. And talk about something I have absolutely 0% control over. So with the dichotomy of control, again, I'm giving simple examples here, but this event unfolds. I wake in the morning all excited to go to the ball game or go do this outdoor thing, and it's raining. And now with the dichotomy of control, this event comes at me, and I can kind of steer that into the lane of I can't control this anyhow. The only thing I can control is my response to it. So I'm going to go find something else to do today. I'll go read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius and sit in my favorite chair and read my favorite book. So again, the dichotomy of control, to me, it's like, if that's the only thing you ever learn about Stoicism, like that's worth the price of admission right there. Like if you come away with really kind of learning to build that filter, that is just a super powerful and practical. And I go through the day a dozen times today. I will probably have to ask myself, can I control this or can't I control this? And you start to learn again. And I think that's another practical part, is you start learning the dichotomy of control, what you can and can't control. What you end up learning is usually it's anything that's not going on inside of this head, typically, is what I can't control. But yeah, so really then after the dichotomy of control, it is just, again, I think through that, almost like the next layer of that is understanding what's external to me, what's internal to me. And the more outside of me it is, the less control I'm going to have over it. And really what it is in the end is just my response, the response to the circumstances. My life isn't a product of the circumstances of my life. It's a product of how I choose to respond to those circumstances. So to me, the dichotomy of control is definitely the kind of step one for starting to practice Stoicism in your life.
Yeah, I think just for the listener, because I understand, and it sounds like an oxymoron, by understanding how little control you have, you gain so much more control. That's how I felt. I felt like I gained so much more control over my life. But listening to that, probably as a viewer, that actually doesn't make much sense. Can you just explain how it helps you get more control in your life?
Yeah, well, I think in the end, again, as I mentioned, it's kind of, it channels kind of the power maybe I have back into myself. I mean, it is empowering to realize, like, I don't have to invest my emotion into this circumstance. Now, I am more empowered when I don't let external events kind of dictate for me how I'm going to feel today, right? It is very unempowering to, like, oh, the weather's crappy. Now, all right, I'm gonna have a bad day today because the weather's not doing, or something's happening in politics, and like, oh, I'm gonna be angry about that. And I'm gonna shoot. Now my days, I'm just gonna be I'm gonna be angry. I might be angry for a week, a month, a year. I might be angry for the 4 years of a presidency. I might be, here in the US, I might be, angry. I've given my power, the agency that I have, I'm giving away to these external forces that I can't control anyhow. It's wasted. It's totally wasted emotional energy because there's nothing I can do to change the situation. So what makes the dichotomy of control empowering is you are kind of taking back your agency, and you're choosing what you are going to focus on and what's going to be important to you and what you're going to invest your time in. Like my family, what goes on inside of this house right here, I have a lot of control over that. I have much more influence over that. So again, I think it's empowering. The dichotomy of control is empowering because it gives you the choice. you get more say in where you're investing your emotional efforts into. Yes, there's going to be some circumstances that where anger is a choice. It's good. Like, this is something that I am going to feel upset about, but I have some way of impacting this. It's react versus respond. When the dichotomy of control helps respond versus react. React is just, I'm going with my first emotional reaction. I'm going with that. This may be mad, like anger pathway, and I have no idea what the end of that pathway will be, but I'm now reacting and I don't have a choice in the matter. Whereas the dichotomy of control helps me respond. I can, all right, I'm going to choose. Can I control this or can't I? And now maybe I have more say in the matter. And now, therefore, I'm more empowered because I'm responding to the situation instead of reacting.
Yeah, I think you summed that up perfectly. That's kind of the understanding I have of it, and that's how, like you said, you can decide. If you had a finite resource of energy within you, you're deciding to no longer keep giving all the energy away to the weather or politics or whatever, all these externals, and you're actually governing the things that you have power and influence over. So that's the dichotomy of control, and I agree that is life-changing. I think it takes a while to really get it in there into your life. I think it takes a long time, and you trip up a lot on what's in your control. But what would be the next exercise that someone could take that could improve their life?
Yeah. So another very practical and powerful exercise that you can do, is kind of Stoic inspired exercise, is, I think I touched on this a little bit earlier, but negative visualization. So, negative visualization is, I think there's a kind of a few different ways you can apply it. But to me, again, back to that, like, I'm carrying my philosophy with me. A very easy way to apply it is to once in a while, and it sounds counterintuitive, maybe a little bit, but once in a while, remind yourself how things could be worse. To maybe take a moment to say, how could things be worse than what they are right now? And again, it's a simple, basic exercise. But let's say I wake up in the morning and I'm getting ready for work. I'm like, ugh, I don't want to go to work today. And I'm feeling like I'm like feeling bummed out about the fact that I got to go to work today. Negative visualization, the Stoics would encourage us to just stop for a moment and think about how it could be worse. Like, pause for a moment and think, how many people out there like are waking up unemployed and having a very hard time finding a job and would absolutely love to have the job that I'm feeling, whatever reason, I don't feel like going to today. I'm feeling bummed out. I mean, whatever. To take a moment to say and think about, well, I could be unemployed, I could be in the middle of a job search and I'm just having a hard time. I could have a hard time feeding my family. I mean, there are people out there that are going through that circumstance. And I think with negative visualization, you can think of anything where you are feeling, that you wish the circumstance would be different, that you kind of are wishing for something else, to just kind of remind yourself. And just like with the dichotomy of control, these aren't like, it isn't necessarily you're going to have that thought and you're just going to 180 and you're like, hey, I mean, I'm loving it. I can't wait to go to my job today. I love my job. You might need to do that when you wake up. You might need to do a quick reminder on your drive into work. You might do a quick reminder when you walk through the door at work. But it's like these little course corrections that, can just maybe knock you in one direction that'll set you off on a better path for the day, of maybe a little more gratitude for what's going on. If I wake up and I have the flu today and I'm like bummed out and feeling sorry for myself that I'm sick, somebody out there has cancer. I mean, whatever it is you're going through, somebody out there could have, definitely has it worse than you did. And there are a lot of people out there that would absolutely love to trade their problems for your problems. And just taking a moment to remind yourself of that. Again, it sounds basic, and we probably have all heard that kind of philosophy from our parents or from grandparents or from other things, walk a mile in a man's shoes and this, all and that. And but it is, if you kind of intentionally think of it as a Stoic exercise, it's something that you can use multiple times throughout the day to just kind of nudge you back in the direction of being in a better mindset, of just for a brief moment reminding yourself that this could be worse. There are ways that this could be worse, much worse. And however bad things get, it could always be worse than it is right now. Again, a simple exercise, and something you can just do. Again, it's very practical in the moment. You don't have to be like, oh, what thinking like, all right, how do I practice negative visualization? And it's just take a moment to think how it could be worse than what it is right now. And that again is a very practical and simple mindset to just kind of help you course correct into a more positive mindset.
Yeah, I think it can help create gratitude, which I think gratitude is so powerful. And I agree with you. It's not, I like the idea of keep staying off track. Like when I was younger and I just kept, the voice going on in my head kept telling me how bad things were, how rubbish my life was, how anxious I was, how weak I was, how I would never get out of this. And I was stuck in this lane. But I think over time, doing this exercise and doing this Stoic exercise, you start to steer out of that lane that you've dug for yourself, and you steer to a new track where it becomes kind of second nature to feel the gratitude and feel good about the situation you're in.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is. It's just like anything else. I'm not going to have a goal to run a marathon and go out and run 2 miles today and say I'm ready for the marathon. I mean, it's the same with these things. It is this, it's iterative. It compounds as you kind of do these practices over and over. It does bake in. I mean, I can say at this point in my life, like the dichotomy of control is baked in. I mean, it's a mindset now. It's like, I'm not like thinking, oh yeah, wait, what's that dichotomy of control? How can I, it's like, I see the events of my life through the filter of what I can and can't control. I very frequently will remind myself when I start feeling bummed out or feeling sorry or whatever, like I have it good. There's people out there would absolutely love to have my life. There are just, and I should be grateful for what I have. And that practice of negative visualization, just that reminder, man, there are people out there would love to be where I'm at. And I'm so blessed and fortunate. That's a quick little mini negative visualization, just reminding yourself that it could be worse than what it is. So yes, definitely it's an iterative practice. It takes time. But if you commit yourself to it, like any habit, eventually or any kind of practice, it becomes habit and it gets baked into the operating system.
Yeah. Do you ever practice, the premeditation of the evils that lay ahead? So like, as Epictetus says, when you go to the public baths, expect that people will splash, shove, be rude. Marcus Aurelius says something very similar, because I feel like that is an exercise that has gave me so much power over my life.
Yeah, totally. So we touched on that earlier, and just because I so happen to have meditation sitting here like I usually do, he does it at the beginning of book 2 of Meditations when he says, when you wake this is Marcus Aurelius, the Meditations. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. That's what he is reminding himself, preparing himself. And again, you first read, you're like, wow, Marcus thought people were jerks. No, Marcus is reminding, I think this is the exercise of preparing himself. You talk about with Epictetus, remind yourself when you go to the bath, your people are going to bump into you. This is stuff can happen. Like, just prepare yourself. And the more you prepare yourself that these events are going to happen, then the less sting it's going to have when it does happen. And it really is. I love that mindset of the Stoics. It really is. They're almost like shame on you if you let these things bother you. Like, you should know better by now. Like, I'm 54 years old. I've been on this earth for 50. I know how people act. I mean, but because I'm looking at it through, it's happening to me. No matter if somebody cuts me off on the highway or somebody says something rude to me today, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this person did this to me. Like, how could they do this? Like, the nerve of them to do this. Who the heck do they think they are? No, as a Stoic, I should be preparing myself for that. And Marcus is telling me, when you wake in the morning, tell yourself. It doesn't sound like the morning routine to like bounce out of bed and go, all right, I'm going to run into a bunch of jerks today. But there's value to that, to remind yourself that you will face these circumstances so you aren't taken off guard when they do happen. And just to wrap up that passage from Meditations for Marcus, he goes on to say, he does that. Then he reminds himself that these are my brothers and sisters. We share a piece of the divine. We are meant to work together like teeth and eye. So he's preparing himself that this is going to happen. I'm gonna meet some people, and especially think of Marcus as an emperor. There are probably all kinds of rude people, and people had bad feelings about him or thoughts about him that he ran into throughout the course of his day and his life. But he was preparing himself for it, and then reminding him, like, hey, like, it's okay. Now, I mean, then my duty is to continue to work with these people, because we are brothers and sisters. We share a slice of the divine. We're meant to work together. So it's kind of a really cool 1-2 punch. Like, prepare yourself that bad things are going to happen, and then when they do happen, again, internalize it's my internal response to this circumstance that I'm responsible for, not the behaviors of this other person. I can't control that. Looping back in the dichotomy of control. If I, like Epictetus, if I go to the baths and somebody bumps into me or something happens, I can't control that. I prepare myself that it's going to happen, and then focus on my internal response to that situation.
Quick word for today's sponsor, Huel. Huel is a quick, affordable, nutritiously complete food with everything that your body needs. I love Huel. Huel is tasty, it's healthy, it makes me feel good that I'm eating something healthy. But also, being a bit of a food snob, I cook my meals from scratch every single day, or my partner, she cooks our meals from scratch every single day. I love food, and I'm very happy with my Huel. If life gets a bit too busy, then I'm so happy I have Huel there, because it's so quick to set up, and it's tasty and it's healthy, and it stops you from grabbing those unhealthy, expensive snacks. Let's get back into the rest of the episode. I think all of the exercises as well, as you explained, I'm realizing that they all intertwine and work together so well. So that's the dichotomy of control, negative visualization, and then premeditation malorum, which is the premeditation of the evils that lay ahead, which I think all three of them are exercises that I follow every single day, the principles I follow every single day, and they've helped me a lot. What would be the next exercise?
So we touched on a little bit with the book I was introduced to Stoicism through, The Obstacle is the Way. So there very much is this Stoic practice. And again, Marcus Aurelius has a quote, the impediment to action is what advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. So it really is this Stoic practice. And I call it like the Stoic obstacle course. And that's based, William Irvine has a great book called The Stoic Challenge that talks very much about this mindset as well. So you have two good books on it. You have The Obstacle is the Way and The Stoic Challenge, that are about this kind of, how do I see these bad things? You say, I'm labeling these bad things, these challenges, these obstacles, these things that happen to me. So many times people in life, and you just think of the lost potential because somebody did something and just hit that wall, hit that challenge, and they just bounced off it. They backed off. They avoided it. They say, I'm not pushing myself past that. That really everything good in life stands on the other side of an obstacle. So in a practical sense of how I kind of practice that, and this goes back to that William Irvine book, The Stoic Challenge, but I like to look at life as an obstacle course. So if you chose to run in an obstacle course and you got to the high wall, you wouldn't just plop on the ground and say, oh man, well, I can't believe they put this wall in front of me. This sucks. My life sucks. I'm never going to make it. No, you would grab on the rope. You're in a challenge. You're going to do it. You're going to put yourself through. You're going to get over this wall. And then you get to the next obstacle and you got to maybe go under and climb through a mud puddle or to get underneath something. You're not just going to stop and get angry. I can't believe they put this thing in front of me. No, I mean, you're on an obstacle course. Yes, you're going to get down, you're going to get low, you're going to climb through the mud, and you're going to get underneath it, and you're going to get through it. So I love kind of this exercise I call, again, the Stoic obstacle course, and just having a mindset. I wake in the morning, I'm going to run an obstacle course. And it's a little bit like that kind of negative, kind of preparing yourself for the evils that lie ahead, but then getting yourself in the mindset, bring it on. If something happens to me today that feels like an obstacle, how do you kind of in an obstacle course, it's not happening to me, it's just happening. It's here. It's meant to be here. I will not get through life without some challenge, and challenges all the way to a loved one dying, to okay, well, my exit for work is blocked off now. And I'm running 5 minutes late. How am I going to get to work? Yeah, I mean, there's obviously varying degrees of the challenges that are presented to us in life, but taking this mindset of it's not happening to me, it's happening, and and somebody, this is here in front of me, and now it's time for me to dig deep and figure out, all right, how can I get through this obstacle? It's a great way of kind of distancing yourself and not personalizing it. It's just like, all right. And even to the level of like, hell yeah, like, all right, you gave me a good one here, whatever your belief system might be, like, all right, God, wow, you gave me a good one. Like, all right, cool. Like, all right, let me figure out how, like, I'm going to dig deep and I'm going to figure this one. I may ask somebody for help with this. I may get creative and think of a different way to do it. I may just have to just get through it, but I'm going to get through it because I'm not seeing it as something that's personal that's happening to me. It's just life. Life is an obstacle course. Obstacles will pop up in their way. They're supposed to, they're going to, there's no way to avoid them. So again, think like you're on an obstacle course, and my job and my duty is to get through this obstacle. And that to me is just another mindset that I like to go through, that kind of, again, like you talked about, William, how they kind of all blend together. You kind of prepare yourself that things are going to happen. And then when they do happen, don't personalize it. Look at it like, okay, I've got a challenge here. Let's see what we can do. Let's dig in. Let's see what we can do to get past this thing. So to me, that's another nice, simple Stoic exercise I like, is just think of life like an obstacle course.
I love that way of visualizing it like that. And I suppose if you see it as life's not happening to you, it's happening for you, using your analogy of the obstacle course, a climbing frame will help you build your arm strength. Crawling under some barbed wire into water will help you build courage. A sprint will help you develop good legs, good cardio. And I suppose that's the same for life. Certain challenges offer certain rewards, maybe. You go through a confusing situation and you learn a bit of wisdom along the way. You go through a difficult situation, you learn a bit of courage, you learn a bit of strength of character.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, everything good in life lies on the other side of an obstacle. Like, what you will learn getting through that obstacle is going to make you a better person. Whether it's like, oh, I found a different route that I can get to work, and maybe that's better, and I know the next time this happens, I can do that, all the way to my loved one died and I went through this circumstance and I came out of the other side appreciative and grateful for the time I spent with them, and I'm a better and I understand that I'm a better person. Or I'm going through some other obstacle that, again, I mustered up the courage. I was afraid to do that. Fear is so much the obstacle in our life. Really, almost I believe almost at the heart of everything is fear. Everything that we procrastinate on, that we avoid, that we don't want to do, there's a fear in there somewhere, buried in there, that we're just something we're afraid. We're afraid we're going to fail. We're afraid it's too much. We're afraid whatever. That when you overcome that challenge, you build up your fear muscles, and you're like, okay, that's a piece of cake. But life will always present, if you're like on that path and you want to be on that path of continuing to get better and continue to get ahead in whatever way, a better husband, father, better friend, better employee at work, there's just like always going to be some fear that you're going to have to tackle, and you're going to be like, okay, I'm past that, I'm through that now. And then life will throw you another challenge, but you have built up that challenge muscle. You're like, okay, and you have more trust and more confidence in yourself that you can face the next one too.
Yeah, I think that's a really powerful way of visualizing things, especially, you could get two people, someone that doesn't understand this, someone that does, and they're presented the same challenge. And, one of them just gets given a challenge and then starts to pity their own life and say, my life's crap. Why do these things happen to me? And then they sort of give up and they go on a downward spiral. But then this person understands that this is an obstacle that's been given to them to maybe teach them something. Oftentimes people reflect on the most difficult times and see it as the most beautiful. They see it as a moment where they got a step up in life and learned something so profound. And I think it is just such a simple understand. I think that's the same with a lot of these exercises. They're so simple that people often disregard them.
Right, definitely. But to me, the two also Stoicism, it's just such an empowering way. It's like, it is, again, getting agency back. Again, the simplest, if I hit the traffic jam, or there's an accident or construction going on in the path the way I need to get to where I want to go to, how empowering is it to just be like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to reprogram my GPS. I'm going to go up to the next exit. I know I got to loop back around. Like, how empowering is that versus like, all right, I'm just going to sit in traffic and be angry and upset. you give your agency away. You give the control that you have when you blame the external circumstance and you personalize that. You are just freely giving it away to something that doesn't even care. It doesn't care how you feel about it. The traffic jam doesn't care. That construction doesn't care. Life, and it doesn't. These challenges, like we're angry, or these external circumstances, we're upset, we're angry, we're afraid, and they're just neutral. They don't care. They stand there. There's another quote that Marcus had, and you touched earlier, William, about how every time you read Stoicism, or read like Meditations or something new comes up. And I just recently read this passage, which I totally won't be able to quote, but it wasn't highlighted. I read it. I'm like, oh, how did I miss this? And maybe because I understand Stoicism a little bit better now, but Marcus talks about how things stand on the other side of the door, unfeeling, uncaring. I mean, and again, it's that imagery, but that's how it is. It's like the circumstance of life, they're on the other side. Like what's knocking, what's on the other side of the door? Like, it doesn't care. It just stands there. It's moving. It's neutral. It doesn't. I'm the one who gives meaning to it. The meaning of these circumstances of life come from us. And how empowering is it if something bad happens to me to go, all right, I have a challenge here. This isn't happening to me. It is just happening. And it is completely up to me to decide how I'm going to respond to this challenge that has been presented to me. Super empowering. Just a super empowering way to live your life.
Yeah, this exercise we're talking about it's been compared to the flame. I'm sure you've probably heard it. It's like the obstacles, the challenges that have been thrown onto the flame become fuel for the flame to go brighter. And I think that's the exact same. If you're seeing yourself like a flame, these challenges are thrown at you, you build stronger and brighter. And it's funny, you was talking about being stuck in traffic. That is exactly how I got introduced to Stoicism. I used to catch 2 buses every single day, 2 buses back, and I was waiting for almost 2 hours between bus, wait, bus. And one day my mum just said, why don't you just read? Never read books. She says, why don't you just read? You need to fill that time. And suddenly, this time that I hated, I just sat there frustrated, annoyed that I was waiting so long. Suddenly, I was so thankful for this time, that I had all this time to read. And most people don't have that opportunity to do something. So I found the good in it. And that was a hard switch for me. But now I always kind of see the positive and the negative, I guess.
Yeah, well, one, good for your mom encouraging you to do that. That was great advice. And it's funny, like some of this stuff, it's just almost like, again, you'll hear stuff like this from your mom or your grandparents, or read about in other books. And as you start learning Stoicism, and like if you read a modern self-help book and they'll talk about some variation of what you can and can't control, like, man, that's 2,000 years. Like Epictetus was talking about that stuff 2,000 years ago. These aren't new concepts. But they haven't lost their value at all, because it's about human nature. It doesn't matter. 200 years from now, somebody can read. 500 years from now, you will get value from Stoicism and from Meditations. But look, what a beautiful transition you were able to make. And again, how many people right now out there somewhere in the world are sitting in a traffic jam, or they're at the airport and their plane got delayed. They're waiting for the bus transfer that's taken too long, or something's going on, and they are so pissed, so angry, so internalizing this external event that could care less about it. Like that external event does not even know you exist. It is just a set of circumstances that somehow the randomness of the universe has made your airplane late. We all know that air travel sucks these days. Again, we can almost, when you go into an air trip, a trip where you're going to be flying, you should be preparing. There's a very good chance that my plane is going to be delayed. So I should not be surprised when it happens. And then when it does happen, what can I do to use that time and not let myself get upset about it? And it's just a really beautiful example you gave there with the bus. And what a flip for you to go from somebody who's going to sit there and be angry and just give away your emotional agency about this external circumstance. And now I'm using that time to read Meditations or to read something and better myself in this period of time. Like, that's an incredible flip right there.
It was quite the revelation. I think, like we're saying, some of it sounds almost too simple that we disregard it as nothing. But if you actually practice these things, that's when you go like, wow, why did I avoid this advice? Like, why did I ignore this? So we've spoke about let me get this right. Dichotomy of control, negative visualization, premeditation malorum, which is the premeditation of evils that lay ahead, and then the Stoic flame, which is the one we just spoke about. What would be the fifth exercise?
Yeah. So, there's and I kind of just call it accepting over expecting. Another quote in meditation, and what I love about the Stoics is their quotes are even pretty easy to remember. It's very practical. So Marcus says in Meditations, a very short passage where he says, to welcome with affection what is sent by fate. And we probably have all heard of amor fati, this concept of loving your fate and everything. Again, Nietzsche kind of talked about that a long time after Marcus had this passage in Meditations where he says to welcome with affection what is sent by fate. There's so much in life that we resist. To me, this is a very powerful mindset when I find myself resisting a situation. I think so much of our unhappiness in life is we wish it was different. We want it to be different. We are resisting. We're like emotionally resisting that life as it presents itself to us right now is not meeting our expectations of how we would want it to be. Again, the dichotomy of control weaves into that because however what life has presented with me that I'm resisting, probably a good chance I don't have much control over it anyhow. But I do love that kind of this acceptance, this mindset that Stoicism teaches us to accept what's going on. So again, it is kind of a very simple mindset that, kind of whatever presents to me that I'm resisting right now, I challenge myself to find out what's the good that can come from this. What there is usually some good that can come from this, and that'll help work me towards acceptance. And again, there can be simple circumstances like maybe I have a family gathering and some folks are coming over. I'm like, I'm not feeling I'm not feeling like the company today or something like that. I'm resisting it, right? There's resistance going on there. And I'll remember Marcus's advice to welcome with affection what was sent by fate. And not, and it ties in with, again, that amor fati mindset. It's not just like, all right, damn it. I'll do it. I got to do it anyhow. Like, all right, I'll go ahead and do it. It's like, it's loving it. Marcus tells us to welcome with affection what was sent by fate. Like, it's literally, William, I'm like feeling the shivers up my spine saying that. It's again, empowering and beautiful to choose. Like, okay, I don't like that this is happening, but I am going to find a way in this situation that there's something good in here, something that I can accept. Or again, I'm completely powerless over it one way or another. So I might as well welcome it, instead of resisting it. So again, that mindset of acceptance, and again, in trying to make that a kind of distill that down into a practical exercise that you can use, is when you find yourself resisting something and you're unhappy and angry and you wish it was different, just take a moment and challenge yourself to say, what good can I find in this? And usually if you do it well and you practice enough, you will find something. Or the good in it is that I'm going to accept it and I'm not going to let myself get upset about it. That's the good in it. That is giving me the opportunity to practice this. Again, back to that obstacle course mindset. Like, all right, I'm grateful that I have an opportunity here to practice acceptance. So this is the universe, God, however you put this circumstance in my path to practice acceptance. Maybe that's the best I can do in this circumstance is just accept it, but it's an opportunity for me to practice acceptance. So that whole kind of mindset of Stoicism, and I gave a simple example from Marcus, but Seneca, Epictetus, they all kind of talk about that kind of accepting what is happening to you in the moment.
Yeah, I love it when you're talking and you're realizing that all these exercises go hand in hand. And I'm just thinking, if someone's listening, it's basically giving them so many tools in their arsenal to cope with many of life's problems and gain some control over their life. So that's 5 exercises or principles that you could use. Do you think you've got 2 more in you?
Well, I know for sure I can give you one. I mean, if we sat here and talk, probably between you and I, we'd probably come up with a dozen more different ways that it's to practice Stoicism. One more I can give you for sure is the Stoic principle kind of managing your desires. the Stoics talk a lot about indifference. They'll use the term not indifference that like ends with CE, like I'm indifferent to it, but indifference it ends with an NTS, like indifference. Like you have preferred indifference and dispreferred indifference. So the Stoics, kind of really the main goal, and we can get into the virtues and everything. Like the main goal is virtue. Like that is the only thing that really matters. It's living a life of virtue. Anything that takes me away from a life of virtue, that's what I should be avoiding, and what I should always be pursuing is virtue. And so those are the two things. And everything else is like an indifferent. And again, so it gives you this kind of nice sliding scale of how much am I going to emotionally invest myself? It gets back to like my emotional investment. So you have preferred indifference and dispreferred indifference. So to a Stoic, money is a preferred indifferent. Like Stoics weren't about like going living on the mountaintop and not be kind of separating yourself from society. These guys were very involved in society. Marcus would have obviously had money. Seneca was a very rich guy. Epictetus led a school of Stoicism, so he probably was okay and taken care of. But money should be something that to me, it gets back to the wants versus needs and looking at it through the filter of the indifference, the preferred and dispreferred. And it can kind of help manage your desire a little bit instead of feeling this driving need to make more money. And I just get into this pursuit of more money. And I'm now trying to pursue something I have less control over, something that is going to make me always feel a need. I need more, to just smooth those edges a little bit, kind of realizing that money isn't critical. I could still live a great life and a happy life without that money. I could still live a virtuous life. I can still have a positive impact on society, making $20 an hour as I could if I made $200 an hour. That doesn't impact my ability to live a virtuous life and be a good person. So that makes the pursuit of money maybe a want instead of a need. Like, okay, maybe I want to, like, I want to provide for my family better, or I want to be able to do these things. Maybe I want to do some more philanthropic things. I want to but I don't need to. And I won't feel unhappy if I don't get it, because that's what desire will do. Like, the desire and resistance, they're like the two sides. Either I'm unhappy because I want more, or I'm unhappy because I want less of what's going on. So we talked about how do we manage the wanting less, the resistance, like accepting, just through acceptance, we can manage that, the sting and pain of resistance. But we can also use Stoicism to help us manage desire. Because there are a lot of people out there who will look at somebody driving the better car, look at somebody who lives in the bigger house, look at somebody with the higher paying job, and they'll desire that. They'll get jealous. They will get into a negative emotional space because I don't have that and I need that. Like, I need to have that. And now they have just invited unhappiness into their lives over things that they may not have as much control over. Well, if you learn to filter that or shift that to I want that, but if I don't get it, all right, I'll still be all right. It's okay. I want it, but if I don't get it, it's all right, and it just kind of maybe makes whatever journey you're on a little bit smoother. And it helps you realize that really the end goal of what you want, the life you want to live, may not really need any of this external stuff that you feel like you need. You can still live a good life, be a good person, accomplish things, make a contribution in life without having the better car or the bigger house and everything. So maybe modernizing that Stoic thought of like virtue is what I should be pursuing. That's what I should care about, is virtue. And whether I'm healthy or sick, I can still live a virtuous life. I don't want to be sick. That's a dispreferred indifferent. Like I would prefer to be healthy over being sick, but that's not going to impact my ability to live well and live really a good life of impact and meaning. So again, trying to, as an exercise of kind of managing your desires, and just kind of through that filter of like, do I really need this? When I'm feeling that desire, kind of understanding what is the goal and do I really need this? And is it worth the kind of emotional stress or the jealousy or the whatever I might be feeling because I don't have it and I think I need it when I really don't need it?
Yeah, that's great. I think I would like to finish it off with the final one. I think, you was talking earlier about the passage from Marcus Aurelius comparing to the boxer versus the fencer. In the Martin Hammond translation, which is the one I really like, it says boxer or gladiator. And, the boxer has his hands, and the gladiator needs to pick up its shield, pick up its sword. And I think it just comes down to this concept of, as Epictetus said, don't talk about your philosophy, embody it. And I think it's a good exercise to finish off with, because a lot of people, I think, and I was like this, I was reading self-help books, I was listening to self-help videos, and that's all I was doing. I was just listening to it and, thinking of all these great ideas, but I never actually implemented them into my life until I found the Stoics. And I think nothing will change if you don't change. You have to take these exercises that we're talking today. So if this is for the listener, if you're listening to Mike's examples and exercises and principles, then you actually have to take them into your life and actually use them to notice improvement. Would you agree with that?
Oh, totally. I think another thing I kind of say is I think what you say, practice Stoicism, and people are like, what does it like? How do I practice Stoicism? What do I mean? What does that mean? And again, like the exercise we talked to, you got to take concepts and get them down into tactical ways of doing it. So I like what I call the SPR method, which is study, practice, and reflect. So the studying is watching the video, like you talk, watch the video, read the book. Like we can go do that. We can read it and okay, great for that 10, 15, 30 minutes, whatever. I'm good. I'm good. And then I go out into life and I just act like a jerk and I get upset about things and I'm just not practicing it. So to me, it's a cycle of reading and it's kind of consuming. However that might be, read the Daily Stoic, kind of get that daily drip or some regular frequency of consuming. That's part of a tactical practice of Stoicism. Keep it fresh in your mind. It's easy to read. Again, Ryan Holiday has a bunch of great stuff. You go pop on a video, whatever. There's no end of Stoicism materials out there. Just like everything else, there's varying degrees of quality. Say stick with maybe your Donald Robertsons or your Ryan Holidays or kind of whatever resonates with you. And kind of keep that, go right to the source and just Marcus and Epictetus and Seneca and keep that daily. So that's your study. You're kind of always studying about it. And then, you practice that kind of through the other bookend of that, which is the reflect. So for me, reflecting is journaling. I have a daily journaling practice that's really simple and very structured. I will start off by listing 3 things I'm grateful for. 3 things that I did well today that I feel like, okay, this is maybe I didn't get upset about this situation. I did this thing I said I was going to do. 3 things I did good today. 3 things I did bad today, because it's Stoicism. Like we're not beating ourselves up, but we're being honest with ourselves, right? We're not trying to sugarcoat things. That's why I love the Stoics didn't sugarcoat things. Man, they were like, Epictetus is like, bang, bang. Like, you should expect more from yourself. You should be doing better. Philosophy should be painful. Like these guys weren't sugarcoating things, and there maybe is a little touch of that. Like, all right, where did I drop the ball today? Like, what did I do bad? And where can I do those better? So it's really just 4 simple things. 3 things I'm grateful for, because I just like that practice of gratitude. 3 things I did well, 3 things I did bad, and how can I do them better? And then that cycles back into the practicing, So these 3 things I'm identifying it into, well, how can I do them better in the future? Like, okay, I got cut off by the car. The bad thing I did today, I got cut off on the highway. I got pissed. I honked. I yelled. I yelled at whatever. Okay, I know what can I do better in the future? Okay, this is a great opportunity for me to practice acceptance. In the future, next time this happens, I am going to wait 10 seconds before I let myself get angry. This is like turning it into something tactical. So it just becomes this virtual cycle of studying, reflecting in your journal, and then that feeds your practice. So it's kind of like that SPR, like kind of the kind of studying and the reflecting, and then that's the practice that's fed through your studying and your reflection.
I love that SPR. I've never heard of that. I'm gonna keep that one in mind. So I think that sums up the practical side Stoicism. I've got 2 questions that I always like to ask people, and I feel like I might know one of your answers, but you might surprise me. So the first one is, what is your life philosophy?
I'm do good and do good. Do good. It's simple. It's a guiding light for me. And there's a whole lot of stuff that feeds up into that, and Stoicism supports that. But do good. Again, Marcus has a quote that I won't get. Marcus talks about, his goal in life is to be good, like gold or emerald or purple, repeating to themselves, my duty is to be emerald, my color undiminished. And he was a Roman emperor, man, and a Roman emperor, and we've seen him, man. We know Nero, we know Caligula, we know Commodus, we know these guys, man. They could be ego driven, they just megalomaniacs. And here's Marcus Aurelius with all the power in the world and his writing in his journal, because this was his journal, not meant for publication, not meant for anybody else for him to see. He was an emperor. He may have had a feeling that somewhere along the line somebody might find it and read it, but he was writing it as himself. And here he is, man, writing, my job is to be good. Again, it's not anything revolutionary or complex. It's simple. And that's what I like about it. Just do good. Do good.
I love that. That's basically my life philosophy. It's been changing ever so often, but and I like the example of the go emerald is to be emerald. It's like you're being good because that is who you are. That is your thing. So my last question, and this is a bit of a tricky one. You have to think about this. Is I feel like in my life I've had strange practices or ways of thinking I've thought about that have helped me through life. They've helped me they're so niche and specific to my life that I've never shared them with someone. But I'd like to know if you've had anything like that, because I think it's worth sharing with people.
Yeah, gosh, that is a really good question. There are some, it's like they kind of say you live and die alone or something, because it's like our inner world of how we process things. Like nobody knows. I love my wife. We're going to be married for 18 years. I know who she is, but what's in the inner world, and how she processes and gets herself through life. It's good stuff. Gosh, that is a really good question. I think what pops to mind, I have a very active dream life. I feel like I'm blessed because I got, like, my wife doesn't dream that much. I'll be like, oh, do you have any good dreams last night? Wait, I always have like good dreams. So I think part of maybe a niche thing I do is how do my waking life interact with that? Not any kind of like lucid dreaming or any kind of weird, but like what's going on and what maybe is my subconscious trying to tell me when I'm sleeping. And, again, I don't have anything woo-woo about it, but just like what's going on in there that maybe I can understand the symbolism or the symbology of kind of what's going on in that dream. And maybe is it guiding me towards something? Is there something deeper that I don't have access to in my waking hours that's kind of nudging me in a certain direction, or something's trying to tell me something? You're right, William. That is a really good question. If I thought about that more, I'm sure there's some other stuff that are kind of just unique to how I process the world and see the world. But that's the first thing that popped to mind. I've always kind of considered myself somewhat blessed that I'm a pretty active dreamer. And there's usually, when I wake up in the morning, you have those dreams where like you lose it after like a minute of waking up. And then you have those, like, they've just been etched. Like I could sit here and probably list off like a dozen dreams that like I've been from 20 years ago that I still remember those dreams. So that's kind of what pops to mind for me.
I love that. If you said that to me about 2 years ago, I wouldn't have really understood what you mean. But I found Jung recently, and I've been paying a lot of attention to my dreams. And you're right, you find so much help. It does sound a bit crazy. It sounds a bit strange, but like it's your mind, it's your subconscious workings. It's telling you things about your life. And once you stop paying attention over a good period of time, you start to notice patterns, and I've had so much help from my dreams, exactly like you have.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And I think it kind of folds into, because I think if there's one thing I'd wrap a little bit, or maybe as we're working towards the end here, maybe what I would say is, to me, the real reward of Stoicism is it does kind of free you up for joy and presence. As you kind of over time, like, look, let's say dichotomy of control. I think over time I get good at it. And like I've freed up 33% of my emotional space because I've just learned to stop caring about these things that used to occupy the space. And, they say nature abhors a vacuum, and something kind of fills back into that space of your kind of how you process the world. And what I've been very blessed to find is a lot of times it's joy that like comes into that space, and how that goes back to our dreams. Like I can sit here and say, 20 years ago, 10 years, whatever, like I had a dream. All right. I had those nonsense. I don't know. My brain just puking stuff up while I'm sleeping. We can sit here and talk about dreams, and joy enters the room. And I'm like, how beautiful and awesome that however this stuff unfolded again, and Marcus will talk about this a lot too, kind of almost comparing Epicureanism throughout, like either we're atoms or it's meant to happen this either which way. But to me, I choose however to just think this is beautiful, that I somehow this is all unfolded in a way that I hit my pillow at night and my brain creates a movie for me to watch during the night of whatever the heck it means. Sometimes it's a scary movie. Sometimes it's a fun movie. Sometimes it's like, I have no idea what the hell this movie was about. But how blessed am I that I just don't, the lights don't go out and I wake up in the morning, I get some entertainment while I'm sleeping at night. Like how cool is dreaming? Like it's like such a cool thing that it's like somehow our brains do this for whatever reason. But to me, that's available to me now to look at that. Like I can look out at what's like a dreary day here in Cleveland, Ohio, where I'm talking to you from. It's a rainy, gray day out there. And you can have seasonal affective disorder, or you can be like bummed out about it's gray, or you can like, man, it's just like the leaves are, the leaves are budding out on the trees now. It's spring. I am lucky to have some trees here that are blowing around, and it's just, again, it's not bragging, and it's gratitude that somehow I got to this space, and Marcus and Epictetus and Seneca and Stoicism helped to kind of just get some of the garbage out to just now be present, and just like acceptance turns into that really true amorphy of like, wow, like I'm just like, this is awesome. I'm grateful that I'm in the middle of this, God knows what, but here I am. And it's a pretty cool show, and I'm grateful. I mean, if my great grandmother never met my great grandfather, I wouldn't be here. Like, what infinitesimal chance is there that I'm even here? Like, I might as well enjoy the ride while I'm here. And Stoicism just is a great tool to get rid of the crap that keeps you from enjoying the ride.
Yeah, I love that. I like the way you think. I feel like some of the stuff you're saying really resonate with the way I'm thinking, and I think. I kind of agree. I do a lot of these videos. I do like these solo episodes where I'm just talking to the camera. I haven't got a guest on. And sometimes I feel like I'm bragging, saying like, how good is it? But that's just Stoicism. I was like, and I'm proud of the mindset I have these days, because I wasn't always like that. And I can say it's because of Stoicism. It's got me to a place that I'm happy to kind of show off to people what is possible. Yeah, it's not like a bragging way. It's just kind of like how I think now. But I think people, like the way you're talking about looking outside your window and you're seeing the beauty and everything, which is exactly what I do when I'm sat on the bus and I see it raining. You can start to see the beauty in everything. And I think a lot of people just don't see this.
No, like just life flies by, it just flies by. I've been guilty of that. And I'm with you, William. Like, I in no way to brag. I mean, my wife is downstairs. I can call her up and she could probably get on here and give you 5 different ways I've been a jerk in the last week or so. I mean, I am a work in progress. I often say Stoicism is there for people who need Stoicism. I mean, some people, maybe they just don't worry about things. They naturally, you might talk to someone, I don't worry about that. I don't have any control over it. But I'm not that guy. I will, my emotion, I can get emotionally hijacked sometimes. So I need it. But I do know kind of in the internal world that it's a lot cleaner and clearer than it used to be. And we kind of started off talking, it's always going to be a journey that's going to last until the day I die, where I'm always going to just try and incrementally get more stoic and just be a better, more normal, easier human being to be around.
That's awesome. I think that's a beautiful way to sum this talk up. And thank you so much for talking to me today. I feel like you've started quite early, so you got up early to do this talk, which I'm thankful for.
Yeah. No, we usually get an early jump. I got kids and dogs, and I'm an early riser anyhow. But no, very, very happy to join you today, William. Thank you for asking me to chat.